Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're looking at our TAB29 or peak channel on a 1-minute chart, and this is my 10-minute power 10 going from convergence to convergence. Uh-oh. All right. So what I have then is a couple views of what might look like my 1-minute wave. Let's look at a textbook kind of view. Now, we call this cycling, and in this case, the cycling is lifting our 10-minute wave from one convergence to the other. So this is where some of your waveology is coming into play. And I had a question a little earlier in the previous session about, can I scalp just with, 1-minute peak extremes? And the answer to that is yes, but if you think back to our Elliott wave, because that's the closest thing we have to describing what's going on with harmonic wave convergence. What we had in that lower level wave was the 10-minute, and then inside of that we had the 1-minute. And this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by an A, B, C. It's just, and what we said was, this is the impulsive move, this is the corrective move. In terms of looking at the two, let's use some common sense, a trader requirement. Let's use some basic math skills, a trader requirement, and say, if this is a 50 pip move up and it's going to have a 38.2% retracement, how far is that pullback? Round it up, make it easy. Let's call that pullback 40%. 40% times 50 would be a 20 pip pullback, right? Thank you, Andre. So my question to you, if you had a choice between making 50 pips or making 20, which would you rather have? And thank you, Zoe, for reminding me I left out a trader characteristic, and that is not to be greedy. So because greed is an emotion, and emotion will overrule logic, and that will get you in trouble in your trading. So this is an easy example, but what happens now if we scale this? Remember, I'm trading 1 minute waves. And remember, I have this reality of 3 pips that keeps in the back of my mind just to bring some scale to my thinking. So what happens if this move up is 5 pips instead of 50? Now I have about a 2 pip pullback. What happens if I enter the trade after 2 pips of pullback? That's right here. And now it continues up to the next wave. What do I make in that trade? I'm entering at the end of the corrective move because it was so small. Maybe it's a 50% and it pulls down to a whopping 2.5. So I got to see 0.5 pips on the trading station before it went to -3. So to answer the question about scalping, can I enter anytime my peak 3 goes to extreme? The answer is yeah, but why? i.e., what you want to do is just like your harmonic wave convergence entry for your 10-minute wave, I want to take the impulsive sides of the 10-minute waves move. Why? Well, because I'd rather have 50 pips than 20. I'd rather have, 10 pips than 4. And as I start going down in scale, I start getting, I have to start worrying about this. There's nothing wrong in scalping in this being a 5 pip move net. Maybe it's 7 pips, so I net 5. Just because this wave and this wave are the same length, it doesn't mean price is the same. All it's saying is that's the end of the move up and that is the end of the move down. These are not equal pip gainers necessarily. In the case of a wave cycling up, this trade down would be trading the corrective side of the trade, i.e. here on where it says 5, I would be taking that trade. That's risky. It's the corrective side of the move. I want the impulsive side. If this thing is winding up, the impulsive side is this way. The corrective side is this way. So these are not the trades I want to take. The only difference between the top and the bottom trade is what? The cycling, the waveology of the 10-minute wave. Make sense? So I want to trade the impulsive side of the moves. Now we'll look at some math, realities, selectivity issues with this as we move on. I'll look at actual screenshots. But for now, I just want to understand that the waveology part of this is understanding the cycling. Now, let's talk about money management on this for a little. As I enter this here as a power 10 or a 10-minute convergence, what's my goal? What should be my money management? Yes, that's a good case of the trend is your friend. Yeah, so my initial goal here would be the power 10 going to extreme at the other end of the chart, at the other end of the channel. I.e., I'd want to go from X to Y. And just like a normal move, you know, I'm not too worried about price coming below my initial entry, because as it moves up, it only pulls back so far in retracement, even if it's 50, even if it's 61.8, and then it continues onward. So I'm going to rode, and then I'm going to build it back. It goes higher, I'm going to rode some, and then it builds it back, and then some. So one strategy would be to stay in this trade from end to end. Another strategy would be to not give up those erosion pieces. So I get in the trade here at the convergence, I enter at the end of the impulsive move. I wait for the retracement to come back, I enter at the beginning of the next impulsive move. I exit at the end of it. I enter at the next of the impulsive move. So even though this is a 10-minute trade, I am making 1-minute trades that are in essence pieces of that 10-minute trade. It's more work, but I'll make more pips. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So the bottom line, though, what I want you to see is that your 10-minute wave is cycling. Now, it's a shame I can't erase this by layers. Oops. Try it this way. What you're going to see sometimes, same deal, same setup, where your power 10 is essentially being lifted, it's cycling. But what you're going to see with your 1-minute waves is this. Now, the reality is, in terms of your 10-minute wave, this is a good thing. Why does it look like that? Why does your 1-minute wave look like that instead of like it will other times coming all the way down? Exactly, Mark, Adam, Tim, Kevin. We have very strong upward pressure. And so the 1-minute wave, being the lighter spring fighting the pressure, doesn't have the strength to come down. There's just too much upward pressure, which is generally a good thing, because that means if I am trading my 10-minute wave from extreme to extreme, these are all signs that it's continuing to move up. There's too much upward pressure, so my 1-minute wave can't pull back down. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody not get that? Let me ask it that way. So there may be some point in time where even though you know it's impulsive, you just don't have a way of trading it, because you just don't know when the 1-minute wave starts stopping and flattening out. Maybe even it starts coming up a little. Is that really the bottom, or is maybe it's just going to come down a little bit more and then go up? because it's not hitting the extreme and bouncing. So these become challenging trades to try and catch the impulsive side on. And if I didn't catch it here at the beginning of the convergence, I very well may just have to wait for up here and to see what I could trade now in the sell. So there are times where you can catch this and take these pieces of the 10-minute trade, and there are times where you can't because they don't come down to extreme. Don't worry. There's zillions of opportunity every day. Our 1-minute pound yen trade that we took earlier, we looked at earlier and rode up from our 1-2 wave. Look at what it did at the top. 1-2, boom. Got in this trade in a 3-pip move, a 3-pip candle. Finally converted the bars, and down you go. So one trade, second trade. It's my only open trading view charts. Everything else, all my other Pip Club Pro charts are underneath stuff on the other monitors. So this one I'm actually having up and watching. That's why I keep bringing it up. So trading opportunities. All these guys, I can't find enough trades. Like, come on. Those are just 1-minute trades. All right. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Looking for trend bar flips what? Yep, we're still looking for trend bar flips. Yep. Yep. All right. So I talked, my FX traders who've been to OCRs know I have a certain set of rules, guidelines for trading trades that are coin toss trades. A coin toss trade is a trade that, to some degree has a 50-50 chance of going either way. But you can't think of it as win versus lose. You have to think of it, again, because we have these very tight stop losses, you have to think of it in terms of risk reward. If I'm risking -3 against +10 and I have a 50-50 chance of winning, I either go -3 or +10 every trade. And if that evens out over time, I got a whole bunch of -3s and a whole bunch of +10s with 50% distribution. So just because it's a coin toss doesn't mean you shouldn't take it if the risk reward is high enough. So there is a particular kind of trade with this in mind that can get you confused. So, full disclosure, I want to reveal it, but then I want to talk about the math. No, Richard, you're ahead of the game. I drew it so it'd be seen, but you're ahead of the game. Yeah. That's an individual spank, which I don't do. I only do group spanks. So I have to bring that up. Why is that showing there? My monitors must have shuffled somehow. Give me a second. I'm trying to find out where everything is. All right. No. Yes. So, you know, I collect trades now and then from my traders. And so I want to show you what's happening here. And the problem with this, or the challenge with this trade, see if I can get by here, is we get to a certain point here where let's make this a little bit more sophisticated by bringing in a 30-minute convergence that is snaking. So we have an issue right here. This can be one of two things. Now, as time goes on and you get a little better, you'll have a little bit better understanding. But if you've been trading Shredder and multi-wave, this will make sense to you. How do I know at this point here that we're not at a retrace extreme of the 10-minute wave? Meaning when we leave that, when price leaves and the indicator starts coming down, how do we know this isn't coming back down to converge again? No, I'm not going there. No, you don't have to be at extreme. See, this would be a fan retrace in multi-wave. So if you had multi-wave above, what this might look like is we have a 30-minute convergence, and you know we have a couple bumps against it. Real close, but didn't come all the way down. Now we're up here, and by the time we get to there, we're actually hitting a fan retrace, and it's never converged in front of this, you know, maybe. So there's our first real fan retrace to an extreme. That would be a sell into the buy on a fan. 10-minute wave doesn't go to an extreme on a sell into the buy. Not trend bar. Let's just say the trend bar is flipped. There is no answer. The reality is at this point it could go either way. It can continue to cycle up and reach the convergence, giving us our 10-minute extreme, which is actually a 10-minute convergence. So retrace extreme here, i.e. this is a fan retrace. Or it could be a harmonic wave convergence headed down to a harmonic wave convergence. The retrace extreme is here, heads down to harmonic wave convergence. Or it could be just the top of the last cycle. We're going to have a little bit of correction and come back up and converge. So these two paths are both viable at this point. So one thing you can do is just put your big boy trader pants on. This is why you have to do math. This is why you have to understand the math. It's all about math. It's just, trust me, it's about math. If I enter this trade as a sell into the buy and it ends up, it's waving, and it's just going to go to the higher high and converge, what happens to my trade? -3. If I'm at a retrace extreme with a 10-minute wave against a 30 pull, how far back should this probably be in terms of pips at this pullback point? I guarantee you, if this is a true 30-minute convergence and I have the 10-minute wave cycling out to a retrace extreme, this could be what, 15 to 20 pips or more. If it's going to go to converge, isn't it going to go to a lower low? So this is just simple math. Sometimes I'm going to lose this trade. Sometimes I'm going to win it. When I do the math, does it make sense for me to take this trade? Absolutely. That's correct, Tim Phillips. See, this is just simple math. You should take these trades all day long. Now, this isn't every time, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be going to the higher convergence. That's not the case. It is a lottery ticket trade in the sense that there is essentially a coin toss involved. It could go one of two ways, and you never know exactly. I mean, a little bit more maturity in your trading with TAB29, you'll get a little better, but look, this is still a struggle. No, it doesn't matter what's left in the move up. I'm not staying in it to the move up. I'm just going to get stopped out at -3. If I enter here and it moves a little in my direction, turns around and goes back to a higher high, I just get stopped out at -3. I don't care whether it goes 10 pips higher or not. It's -3 to me, right? This is a trade by math and logic you should take every time. The times it doesn't work doesn't get compounded into, oh, I just can't trade, this system doesn't work, maybe the Forex isn't for me. See, that's you took this as a, I'll try it, who knows where it's going to go, and oh, I got bad results, there's a negative sign in front of it, woe is me. That's 100% emotional trading. I do the math. You need to do the math. If the math says take this trade, it doesn't matter if you lose it. Take it again the next time. Take it again the next time. Take it again the next time. There's no depends on this. Does anybody not see that? So, okay, what I really like to do is back up the theory and the chalkboard with reality. So these are two separate traders. Trader number one. Look at the 10-minute wave. Power 10 cycling down. Notice the 1-minute wave is not going all the way up. Meaning what? There's downward pressure. Trader entered the trade on the 1-minute wave going up. He had green bars. Excellent trade. Unfortunately, this particular time, it was going back down to a deeper convergence. -3. Buy, didn't work, -3. Another trader. This trader is still coloring their power 10 red and yellow, but I overdrew it so you can see essentially where the power 10 was going. Way short of convergence. This had the possibility of doing exactly what the trade in front of it on the left did, coming down and converging, Or this could have been the end of the retrace. Terrible looking fans, but hey, peak 3 showing us this is the end of the retrace, maybe. Or maybe it's going to cycle a little bit more. This trader took the trade. Boom. Both of them are the same trade. Does that make sense? Everybody get that? That wasn't a real resounding yes. Yeah, stretched out makes me go, Hey, oh, you don't get this? There's a no in there? Oh. Just depends on how many times it came down. It might have already come down 2 or 3 times. So, you know, it just depends on where you're applying and what you see this as. But there are times where you just can't tell. You know, you can't tell if the 30-minute wave is proportionate or disproportionate. And so it just comes down to a lottery ticket trade. Look, if the 30-minute wave is totally snaking at the top, I still don't know if this is going to go to a higher high or the 10-minute wave is going to come down deeper. It's just an unknown. There's not real good information there. The only information I can have about this trader taking this trade is they did some evaluation. We can't even see it because it's off the screen. But 5, 10, 15, 22 pips, this trader is risking 3 against 22. See, put yourself in the old paradigm, guys. You have a trade. You enter the trade. The swing low is 100 pips behind you. You're covering it with a 100 pip stop loss. And your guru said you must at least have 3 to 1. You got to go 300 pips in order to make that work out. This trader has 7 to 1. Is that a trade he should take? Absolutely. Second trader stayed in till harmonic wave convergence of the 10-minute wave. What do you do for a sell into the, in this case, a buy into the sell? See, this is a buy into the sell. They're both buys into the sells. What's your goal for a buy into the sell? Harmonic wave convergence at the opposite end. This is just cycling the 10-minute wave up. So my point being, don't, get your skivvies in a wad because one of these you'll go -3 on and one of them you make, 10 pips. They're the same trade. They carry, good risk reward. This one actually had better risk reward over here. This trader can look at this, at the pullback, 5 pip channels, 5, 10, 15, You know, I don't know exactly where it came from, but not much higher. Maybe 20 pips. They're both about the same trades. About 20 pips down. Against a 3-pip stop loss. So no big deal. That's what I'm saying. Don't worry about this. It's okay for this to happen. You can't stop trading because you get a -3. These are both great trades. Your trend bars on a 1-minute chart only measure the 1-minute waves. Just because this might turn red or this might turn red does not mean the trade is over, because I'm trading a 10-minute wave. I'm not trading 1-minute waves. The only 1-minute wave that I'm concerned about here would be the 1-minute wave that coincides with my 10-minute wave at extreme. This one would be the trend that I worried about, the flip of the 1-minute wave trend bars that I would worry about. Everything in front of that means nothing. That's why I said they're not continuation, and they're only for the 1 minute. I got my entry, I have my exit, because that becomes a sell. That's a harmonic wave convergence at the 10-minute level. They're both valid trades. Neither one is stronger than the other. They both face the same dilemma. And in this particular case, this trader is what's the word I want to use? Has a little bit more confident, because the depth of the 10-minute wave is such that that's close enough, and there will be times where that actually is the extreme. So this trader has a little bit more support in the entry here, being legitimate, thinking it's going to go this way, because he's at a point that can historically be seen as a 10-minute convergence. So these are both great trades. Right there at that point, that was oh yeah, I didn't even see that. Thank you. That made it even stronger. So not only is the 10-minute wave here, look at this, the 144. So this is bouncing off the 144. That's the harmonic go-to trade for our system. So there's a check plus on validity of taking this trade. It doesn't matter that it didn't work out, because there will be plenty of times where it does. And the risk reward here, 10-minute close as it's going to get without being there, convergence, bouncing off the 144, get my hook back, get my trend bars to go in my direction. Look, I will take that 10 out of 10 times. Over on the right, it wasn't quite as deep of a pullback of the 10-minute wave, but there was good cycling down, lots of evidence of there being weak, strong pressure down. So this could have either done one more cycle and come down, or it could have gone and reversed back up to convergence like this one did. And this trader got some pips. They were both good entries. So don't get, oh, well, I guess, it doesn't win every time. I don't know if I could trade this. Risk reward, do your math. Don't let emotion get in there. keep taking these trades. Or you don't trade this at all. When it gets that deep, you don't say it. You don't think it. But then you're going to get yourself into, what do I trust and what don't I trust? Because why wouldn't this be a trade? See, in terms of multi-wave, that would be a fan retrace. My peak 3 hooks back. I got green bars. Take the trade. Well, there again, this was not the retrace extreme. This was cycling down still. But I don't know if this was the case. My guess is this trader had saw this come down far enough that the risk in this not being a 10-minute convergence was very small. And again, I could see the boostering of that mindset when it's bouncing off the 144. So both of them carry a little risk, but the risk reward is good. 7-1 in both. At least that's what it was when you start the trade. Questions about these two? Same trade, same position. I loved it because these trades came in a couple days apart, and exact same thing. Any questions about that? One thing that may help you from time to time on your 1-minute charts is adding the Power 5. Now, I don't keep it there routinely because the whole goal with peak is to not clutter up your charts. It's a cleaner chart. It's a cleaner indicator. Look at multi-wave. I love it, my baby, but there are times where it just gets a little yuck. So you don't want to regress to trying to take your channel and make it look like that. But there are times where, well, that's great. It just vanished. 22. Oh, there it is. Where the 5-minute wave coming to an extreme, may help. May give you false signals. Generally, you can get in, get out without too much effort, but sometimes that wave will help you. I don't put it on very frequently, but I'm just saying it can help you. So let's talk about trend lines for a few minutes. And trend lines are really good because there's no extra push with price that will challenge a pullback premature in your peak 3. In other words, when I have a hard ceiling and price is at that ceiling and I'm having my peak 3 hit, I don't have to worry about this kind of thing. That doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. So trend bars help eliminate some of that stuff. Okay? Now, the only thing I'll say about trend lines, looking at my notes here, is that they're a little bit like pitchforks, right? So you don't want to cheat and stretch and, do all that kind of stuff. I tend to treat them very conservatively, and I apologize for this one being thrown quickly on. This end of it should be just a little higher to catch that tiny wick up there. And by being a little higher, you wouldn't see any red here, but this would not be a trend line touch. But this one would be for sure. So trend lines can really help. Now, here we go. What is my time? Yeah, it's being recorded. Are you ready to be blown away? Who's ready to be blown away? All right. So really this killer thing about TAB29 is finding trades that you didn't know they were there. So in other words, from a harmonic wave convergence standpoint, you know how to look for trades, whether it's 30-minute level or 10-minute level. You know, I've shown you a little of peak, of TAB29, where there are trades, harmonic wave convergence, the peak 3 pullback, hook back, and the trend bar flip within a 2 to 3 pip candle is your entry. So I'm going to show you something that's going to give you 2 times, 3 times, 5 times the number of trade opportunities per week. Does that sound exciting? And you know what? They're even more precise and higher percentage. Nah, I think I'll wait for next week to do that. I mean, come on. It's only, Aussies have only been up 4.5. It's only what, 5:30? It's almost, sun should be coming up. Milkman. Walk of shame. Whatever goes on at 5:30. All right. So we've looked at trend lines. We know trend lines can help us because they identify a brick wall, for the price, and then therefore then when the peak 3 at extreme, it really is very powerful. Let me see. Let me go back to my notes. So now I'm going to show you something. And you know what's cool about this? Remember at the beginning when I was talking about peak 3 and how it was built and why it was built. And I talked about there being a number of indicators, and I worked with combinations of each grouping, to get 4. And so when you have 12 or 13 that you're playing with, you can end up with a lot of groups. I might have indicator 1, 2, and 8. I might have indicator 1, 2, and 12. I might have indicator 2, 4, 8, 9. So you end up, with the combinations and permutations essentially with a lot of possibilities. And I went with the ones that most consistently, when they agreed, they all agreed. When they disagreed, they all disagreed. I didn't want mixtures. I didn't want averages to be what ruled. I wanted all of the indicators to say the same thing. That's the power of the force. Not that we can average it. That's, that's hokey. It's a false read. It's going to give us problems at various times. They either all agree or they all disagree. But a little luck was like my discovery of harmonic wave convergence. There's a little luck on my side. Maybe law of attraction. There's some properties of the peak indicator that are just unbelievable. So here's your oohs and ah moment. The cool thing is that in terms of trend lines, they can also be used in other areas, such as in the indicator field. So watch how powerful this is. See, most people would say there's no trades in here. Most people would be leery of this nonsense here because this fan retrace is a fan retrace from a fan retrace, and this fan retrace is a fan retrace of a fan retrace, and this fan retrace is a fan retrace. This is cycling. We don't know what to do with that with multi-wave. I have a peak 3 at extreme. It drops down some to here, and I draw a trend line on it. I now have a solid trade right here for trade number 1. I have a solid trade right here for trade number 2. And look at where that trade is. Peak 3 is not at extreme. I get trades that multi-wave won't give me. I get trades that aren't necessarily visible up here. It just so happens that this is the best of both worlds. So I'll jump to the conclusion and we'll go back and look at more of this. The best of both worlds is I can have a trend line up here. So let's look at that and pretend I don't have the trend line down below. I can take trades where I have an established trend line, like right here, and I have an individual peak 3 that comes here and goes up and hooks back. Notice I have the bars in support of me. I can take that trade even though peak 3 hasn't an extreme, only because it's an established trend line. And I'm talking, you know, a trend line. So we have trend lines that allow in price field, that's a price trend line, that allows us to take peak 3 when peak 3 is less, when it's short. So all of a sudden, this is why I said, I know I don't like doing trend lines. You're going to like doing trend lines, trust me. Now, not only can I take it because there's a trend line there, if I didn't have this trend line in price, but I had the trend line in the indicator, I could trade this move up based on the peak 3 starting to pull over. Now again, 5 pip channels, so I will visibly see this happen. Moves start to come down to peak 3, and if that line is already there in place, there's a trade. So we have a three-way reality. One, I could have trend lines in price that are super to take when P3 is at extreme, but here my P3 can be, my peak can be short. You know, I should say peak less than extreme. Two, no trend line in price, but trend line in peak that is short. I could take a trade. And three, as this chart depicts, I can have both. You're not going to get a higher percentage trade in the Forex, guys. 5, 10, 15, 20. And we have the 30-minute wave coming to a convergence down here. Probably exit somewhere in here. Wouldn't quite make it all the way, but close enough for government work. So we got about 4, 9, 14, 19, and about 3, 22, 23. Back out your entry, back out the spread. You should have got maybe 18, 20 pips out of that. Out of a trade that wasn't there. The trend line has to be established. This trend line would allow me you know, I have an extreme here and I have this extreme here. That allows me to draw the trend line. Now granted, when your two bumps are close in, there's a little wiggle in this, just like you have with the pitchfork. So as this price, in this particular case, I'm just being transparent. Can't always paint everything, you know, and then you get to the charts and it doesn't work that way. So I like telling you the way it really is. Yeah, well, again, I don't need both. I only need one or the other. But so when this point comes up and it starts to hook back, I can now move this to get the third hit and still make my trade. And in that particular case, you're absolutely right. It was short of the trend line up here, which means it wouldn't have been a trend line trade, but because I have this trend line in the indicator, I could take this trade. And let me tell you guys, between your 1-minute charts and your 10-minute charts and your 30-minute charts, you will see these anytime you open your charts. I guarantee, I mean, if you open your charts, if you trade 4 pairs and you look at, that would be what? 12 charts, 1 minute, 10-minute, 30-minute for each pair. I guarantee you will find some of these. And your eyes get better at seeing them, just like they do with drawing pitchforks. So hold on. That is 24. All right, we're going to blow through some of these. Okay, let's look at the next one. See what it looks like. Beautiful run, beautiful entry. Power 10 at extreme, power 10 short. Third one is a hit. I have an entry. Boom. Once again, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, somewhere in there when the 30's there and then one starts pulling back out, you know, or in that case, the 10-minute starts pulling back out. Maybe here. Wouldn't make it to the top, but wow, enough pips. All right. Now, look, these are traders submitted. These aren't, you know, these are traders that are already doing this. All right. Here's another one, another run. You're catching the last impulsive move off of it right here. Very clean, big move up. Now, when you're short, i.e. we're not down an extreme, and I've got a trend line, I don't need to have trend bars. There is a reality that the trend bars need some room to recalibrate. And normally that is about 75–80% of the way across the channel. So if price doesn't fall down, if the indicator doesn't fall that far down, there wasn't enough pressure to where when it reversed, it would actually show the end and a new beginning. Excuse me. So when I have the peak threes that are short of that about 75–80% range, I don't have to use the trend bars. They're not going to be, they're just not calibrated enough. They'll be recalibrated down here. I now trust it again down here. But in here, I can't use them as a validator. And I don't have to. Beautiful trade. Again, apologize for my hastily drawn line. Should have been just a tad higher at this end to cover up that and catch this at the proper spot, but you get the idea. So once again, I have a sliding move down, and this lets me catch this thing right up in here. It's just high enough on the way down. I actually get the bars to help me. If I have the bars confirming, I'm not going to turn them off. But I'm just saying, when this is short of about 75%, you don't have to worry about them too much. So there's a trade again based on the third hit. And that's the one you wanted. No, on any of them, as you'll see. Got to go through these a little quick because I don't want to extend this session too long. But okay, this is bottom, so it's trend move up. Once again, you know, 1, 2, third one's tradable. It's deep enough. Got my trend bars to flip. I catch the 62 bounce, which I should be taking anyway, but here's a nice validation of it. Boom. Get some quick pips. Yeah, a little, huh, Zoe? So I want to point out here that you will see this, you know, I never really paid much attention to it in multi-wave, but you will see it from time to time in multi-wave. It's just not as consistent and it's not as clean. But this is an example of a 4-hour trend line marking the 4-hour bottoms as they were moving up. So just to show you, you can use it on any time frame. Because multi-wave is one of the components of peak 3, one of the 4. Here again, very gradual rise, but we were drifting from extreme to about the 15% line, or the 15-point line. So just a little bit of a rise, but nonetheless, they gave you some trades. I have one I want to get to. Oh, we're almost there. Now, I have to be careful. All right, so here again, I have another move that I can take right before the drop. This is stuff we would normally not trade. Why? Look at the channel. Look at this mess in here as far as the distance. Not, you know, I don't like trading that kind of crap. However, I will take this bounce and ride that down. Thank you. Trades everywhere, guys. 33. Another one right before the drop. Again, why is the, you know, peak 3, well, this is a 10-minute chart. So why is the 10-minute peak 3 not reaching all the way up, right? Because extreme downward pressure. Here it's not, you know, little pressure down. All of a sudden here, bigger pressure down. That's why you have the big drop. This couldn't persist. You couldn't continue to get less and less and less and this thing not just drop. Because there's extreme downward pressure. That's why this thing can't go all the way to the top. Okay. Now, one thing I'll point out, you don't have to have contiguous hits. You can have, usually their breaches, if you will, or the non-hit is usually less. In this case, it went all the way to the top. And that may or may not have had something to do with it. I don't mess with it. I just draw my trend lines, and I might have 2 or 3 on the chart at any given time, as you'll see here maybe in the future. All right, so just to show you the scale of the opportunity, we're going to look at an 8-hour or a 480 trend line on the peak 480. So we're, in this case, on a 8-hour chart. And I want you to look at some of these moves and understand why they are so tradable, even literally from the 8-hour chart. So we have a 8-hour peak extreme, which is an entry. We have the pullback, which exactly 61.8 was also a double zero psychological barrier. I don't need to have a 20 pip stop loss on this move. Now, pay attention. These are 50 pip channels. I just said this can go on any wave. 10 minutes, here we are on an 8-hour wave. This is the 8-hour peak. It says peak 3, they're being renamed peak. So that is the 8-hour peak wave. 105 pips to what? Mostly an extreme. 157 pips to what? The extreme. We now have our trend bar, our trend line in place. I didn't even count the move here because there was a gap. I just went from when the Sunday open hit to the top until it started turning around. 129 pips. Boom. Another psychological. This is on a 50, but another trade. Boom. This one didn't make it. There was nothing to trade. No big deal. Don't have to be consecutives. Last one hits, comes up. And again, there was, I believe, a 50% retracement on this one. Might have been 61.8. Yeah, 61.8. There were a couple of these that were to the pip. And again, you would, maybe this first one, you would, starts pulling away from, you take out. The combination of what I see in multi-wave and here would probably have me exit. Could have got another 50 pips if I stayed, or 25, 30 pips if I stayed in longer, but I think this one was fine. So you start adding it up. 105, 157, 129, 84, 105. I think it was 650 some pips, something like that. No, that's what I'm saying. This is as crazy as this is. This is an 8-hour chart. And some of these, see, where you get a Fibonacci that's exactly 61.8 at the time this thing starts banking up, that's a trade. I don't need micro adjustments. You zoom in, get your 61. You can literally trade some of these from the 8-hour chart. Now, I don't do a lot of trading off my 8-hour chart. I'm just saying some of these are that solid. This pullback at 61.8 was exactly on 106.00. Double zeros and 50s are called psychological barriers. They are as strong a support and resistance as anything else you're going to draw on the chart. And when you measure these pullbacks, I believe this one was perfectly 38 too. Here we have another one. This one landed to the pip on the 50 barrier. So some of them you don't need to. I will say this, because again, I like being transparent. You're not going to trade an 8-hour trade with a 3 pip stop loss. This is why you do the math. I can go to my 8-hour chart and I can see the kind of moves that go, what they're doing. And I would dare say, 100, 157, 120, 84, 105. Who knows what that average is statistically, about 111. I can have a 10 pip stop loss, fully exercise my ESL, and I'm still 10 to 1. So it's about the math. Now, I have to laugh, and I'm counting on some trusting confidence here with some of you, because some of you are going to understand what I'm about to say. You know, I did lose a trader from the group that came in the fall, and there were, you know, there were some parting words, and some of the parting, you know, criticism / suggestions were valid. You know, it was at a time where I was just, not this is an excuse, but it's just the reality, where I wasn't giving a lot of attention. As you know, I don't give a lot of attention to every single trade. But this trader felt nobody, me and nobody else, was looking at his trades. And that's terrible for him to have that feeling. But nonetheless, he just, you know, he added all that up, and he said he didn't think, you know, this is the way he wanted to go, and he was going to go do naked chart trading, be a naked trader. Clothes on, but naked charts. And so you know, I've watched some of it. He's tried to take a little bit of a leadership position in IML, and I just, with great amusement, Monday night, I was looking at some trades, and I looked up at Facebook, and he did a Facebook post which said, "Hey traders, I'm not seeing much opportunity in the markets tonight with my trade plan and rules. What do you guys see?" Well, in the time frame he was saying this, which was 6 hours back, this was the 6 hours back. So he was in here saying there were no trades. Now, what I want to show you, of course, is our trend bars. And let's just first fix on this white one. So I have 1 point, 2 point, I have my trend bar. Here's a trade. And that trade went for 100 pips. A couple hours later, I have it's bouncing off the 13, but once again, my trend bar gives me a trade. That one went 75 pips. That was a 35% return on account, but the rules he left, i.e. when he didn't want to trade Shredder anymore, aren't giving him those trades. And not only that, he wouldn't have 35% return even if he made 175 pips. Now, what happened earlier in the evening was this secondary trend line for this move right here, which would have given you this trade. Bounce one at extreme, bounce two here. Here's my third one for the entry. Real tiny, would have never traded that otherwise. And then this thing free falls. There was, I kind of ghosted all that out. There was 150 pips in that move for a 30% return on account. So these two trades together, if you were in them, 65% ROA, and he's searching for trades. I love it. I just love it. Not to pick on him, but just, you know what I'm saying? Trades are there. Other traders are struggling looking for stuff, and their naked charts aren't giving it to them. They bought into that whole, oh, you can't trade with indicators. Well, I'm here today to show you can trade with indicators. All right. So we had our little fun. We're going to take a break. And I have 10 minutes until the hour, or close enough. Let's take a 10-minute break this time, so we'll come back right on the hour.